What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another late night in the BrewLab with me, Lone Fox, your brewmaster in chief. And tonight in the BrewLab, I'm coming at you with another episode of Brewing With. And the card we're brewing with tonight, if you have not guessed yet from the deck cover boxes, is the Sokenzan Smelter. We've got three versions, and we're jumping straight into the most powerful one, in my opinion. And let's take it from the top. This is the Mardu version. We've got full play set of Shambling Ghast, which is in the deck because it creates a treasure token. But it's, of course, also fantastic fodder for the Deadly Dispute, which gives us a little bit of ramp. But the real reason is the treasure token that it poops out, because we need artifacts to sacrifice. Then we've got full playset of the Voldaren Epicure, serving a very similar spot in the deck to the Shambling Ghast. Sacrificial fodder for the Deadly Dispute, makes an artifact that we can sacrifice. Deadly Dispute, don't need to reintroduce this card. Fantastic, draw two, make a treasure. And that brings us to the main card of tonight's episode, the Sokenzan Smelter. Nice little uncommon. It's a 2-mana 2/2. Goblin Artificer, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may pay one colorless and you sacrifice an artifact. And if you do, you create a 3/1 red construct artifact creature token with haste. So much that is going on with this card, if you really think about it. First of all, it's a sack outlet for your artifacts that doesn't require you to tap down your Oni-Cult Anvil, which is what you want every turn in an Oni-Cult Anvil deck, because you want it untapped during the opponent's attack phase, because then you can block with your constructs and then tap and sacrifice them. So if you have a way of creating the constructs during your turn that doesn't require tapping the Oni-Cult Anvil, that's always a plus. And so Sokenzan Smelter is helping us do that. If we have one of the aforementioned treasures or blood tokens or what have you on the board at the beginning of your combat step, and we also have Oni-Cult Anvil and the Sokenzan Smelter, you pay one, we sacrifice the artifact. That will trigger the Oni-Cult Anvil and make a construct, and it'll trigger the Sokenzan Smelter and create a 3/1. So out of 1 mana, we get a 3/1 and a 1/1. And we're leaving the Oni-Cult Anvil untapped, most importantly. So then we can use those 3/1s to just attack phase. Sometimes the aggro plan works out just perfectly. The opponent's still building their defenses, and we're just coming at them with these 3/1s every turn. More and more of them just keep appearing, and they boom, boom, boom. And of course, we've got 3 copies of Wedding Announcements, which eventually make all those 3/1s into 4/2s, which is even more insane. But yeah, in this particular version of the deck, that's kind of most of the work that the constructs are going to be doing. And if we can't get through with the initial aggro plan, then the deck does a very great job of morphing into the sort of mid-rangey grind fest, life gain, life drain deck via the Oni-Cult Anvil and the Meathook Massacre. But then we've got a nice little removal package, which is kind of the main reason to splash white in this, what is usually just a Rakdos deck with the Oni-Cult Anvil, because we get to run all of these fantastic removal spells. Rite of Oblivion right now is just, it's better than Vanishing Verse at the moment, and with 3 copies in the deck, that means we get to essentially cast it 6 times. We have plenty of things to sacrifice in our various constructs and tokens and treasures and blood. We've got plenty of things to sacrifice to Rite of Oblivion, which is why I've gone for the 3 instead of 2 and 2 split, which I usually go for. And it can just handle everything, like no problems. Your enchantment decks, your planeswalkers, what have you. The only thing it doesn't exile is lands. So the fact that also you don't have to exile the thing that you're sacrificing to Rite of Oblivion means that oftentimes it's another way of getting a trigger out of the Oni-Cult Anvil without tapping it. Like you just sacrifice one of your blood tokens or something to Rite of Oblivion, trigger your Oni-Cult Anvil, exile the opponent's most important threat, and continue from there. So just fantastic. But then we've also got one of each of the other like 2-mana Orzhov removal spells. Fracture, which does enchantments and planeswalkers and artifacts, and then Vanishing Verse, instant speed, monocolored permanents. Oni-Cult Anvil, don't really need to reintroduce this card. This is already probably the second deck with this kind of archetype on the channel. I'll leave a link to the very first one that I put up right at the beginning of the new set release. It's kind of evolving. This is such a sweet card. Like if you've got a couple of these on board and a Sokenzan Smelter, every turn you're making just this obscene amount of tokens just keeps coming out of this combo. I really hope to illustrate it during tonight's gameplay footage. We get a permissive opponent. The amount of these little 3/1s, and everything just gets doubled up, of course, if we have multiple copies of these. The more of these we have on the board, the better. Then, another win con, the Meathook Massacre. Oftentimes, I just go really, really wide against certain decks like that are also kind of trying to do the same thing, aggro decks. I just go really, really wide with all the constructs. I let the wedding announcement tick over nice and slowly until everybody gets the buffs, and then I just sit and wait until I top deck a Meathook Massacre, and then I just sweep my own board and kill them that way. It's really, really satisfying. And also we have just a much better way of rebuilding post sweeper. Oftentimes you're sweeping some of these constructs, and if you have an Oni-Cult Anvil in play or two, it'll trigger that and create more constructs before the Meathook Massacre hits the board. I beg your pardon. When the Meathook Massacre hits the board, it kills the constructs, which triggers the Oni-Cult Anvils, and the new constructs will appear after the sweeper. And then if you've got your planeswalkers, we can poop out more spiders. I'll get to the planeswalkers. Next up, winning announcement. Makes perfect sense in a token deck. It's also another great reason to splash white in this Rakdos deck because, yeah, we've got so many tokens, and if you even just get a couple of these in play, having these constructs just be 2/2s instead of 1/1s, or 3/3s instead of 1/1s is huge. Then, this is what I saw in the game when I was playing against the opponent and he beat me. It was a combination of Kaya Geist Hunter and Sokenzan Smelter on the board, and I was like, wow. In a single turn, if you -2 with your Kaya Geist Hunter, the amount of stuff that you can do is insane. Even just, playing a Voldaren Epicure would make 2 blood tokens. Then you Deadly Dispute your Voldaren Epicure, you get 2 treasures. You use one of those treasures at the beginning of combat to sacrifice to a Sokenzan Smelter, you get 2 constructs. Because you're sacrificing a artifact, the Oni-Cult Anvil will get triggered, you'd get 2 constructs. And then at end of step, if you have a wedding announcement that still needs to poop out little human tokens, then it'll poop out 2 instead of 1. Just like the amount of value that you can get out of 1 -2 from Kaya in a single turn that I've gotten in testing is just phenomenal. And then you're left with all of these creature tokens. The +1 is fantastic. You can just start putting counters on them, growing your creature tokens. They all get Death Touch every turn, so your opponent's really like de-incentivized to block a lot of them. So just great. Like even the hasty guy from the Sokenzan Smelter, comes out as a 3/1. You +1 it with Kaya. It becomes a 4/2 with Death Touch with haste, swinging in straight away. It's not terrible. So sweet little planeswalker to add to the deck, and finally the perfect planeswalker to add to the deck, Lolth, Spider Queen, because whenever you control a creature you control dies, you put a loyalty counter on her, and we can have in a single turn multiple things dying because of the artifact death triggers, and of course the spiders she poops out as well. It's a lot easier to get loyalty on Lolth in this deck than you would imagine, and I've -8'd her a few times, during testing. But it's also just great because with all the life gain that we have via the Anvil and the Massacre and things, we can willy-nilly use the, I don't mind paying 1 life to draw a card, and we don't have much card draw at all in the deck, so that's another great way of doing so. It's basically just if you attacked with more than 2 creatures, with more than 1 creature, 2 or more creatures, and Wedding Announcement hasn't transformed into Wedding Festivity yet, then you get to draw a card. Then we've got Daily Dispute and Lolth's +0 ability, and that's it. So just use your card draw sparingly, but I hope the strategy is clear. We're trying to, either close the game out really quickly with 3-1 hasty bodies before the opponent can sweep the board. And if they do, then we morph into this like mid-range life drain deck with Planeswalkers and the Oni-Cult Anvil. Really great removal will help us get there. The mana base, really wonky. We've got 1 cave, we've got 1 hive, we've got 1 den, we've got 1 seat, we've got 1 abandoned mire, and 1 crucible. Then 2 of each duel, 2 Field of Ruins, 1 treasure vault. Importantly, not only can we sometimes use this when we get into those situations where I have no way of making new artifacts to start off all of my trigger chains, then you could even sacrifice this land to the Sokenzan Smelter, for example. But we can also, if we have a bunch of untapped mana, sacrifice the treasure vault and create X treasure tokens. So then, we can make treasures that way. It's just an all-rounder, nice little one-of in the deck, kind of helping me out with a lot of aspects. And that's the brew. That's the first brew for tonight in Brewing with the Sokenzan Smelter. We'll jump into the other ones as we progress through tonight's video. It's going to be a little bit of a longer one, but that's okay. Let's jump into some games. I hit Mythic at 64, guys. Sorry about the delay on this video. It took me a day to kind of just like unwind. It was a very, very intense run. I was fully focused. 21 and 6, 78%. Under an hour. It was just freaking amazing. Oh, wow. I'm matching up against Diamond players. I haven't played a single ranked match since I hit Mythic, so my rank has already decayed quite significantly. Mono white or Orzhov? Could be anything actually. Yeah, it's mono white with snow. I mean with Doomscar by the look of things. So I will not play out my Smelter. Usually they kind of want to wait for you to deploy more important threats before they sweep. Okay. Never mind. We can play Lolth now. Or do we play the Smelter? I think we go with the Smelter. Skadoosh. What a card. For an uncommon. Okay. It's probably like mono white control. With, your Catildas and things. Now, because we don't have the mana to cast Lolth, I had that haunting deck. I had a feeling. It'll have to burn a treasure And just doing that will leave our Anvil untapped.
Envy the strong, for they aren't I generous.
There we go. The strategy is morphing. Now we have a serious issue though, because I mean, if he gets to 7 or more enchantments, then they get flying and things. It's a okay. So he's going to just wipe the board. We're gonna get plenty of loyalty on our Lolth.
Do what I demand. We will slay our enemies.
Second copy of Haunting. Scary, scary stuff, guys. And here we got a nice.
In exchange for loyalty.
Fantastic. Fan-bloody-tastic.
Subservience will.
That's just the best card in this matchup. Off you go. Off you shall go. Fantastic. The Rite of Oblivion is just lifesaver. I mean, of course, Vanishing Verse would have done the trick there as well, but just that it helps with the sacrifice theme. It has flashback. Oh, it's just phenomenal. And it's uncommon. Ooh. Ooh. What do we get? What do we get? I've already got 98.2% of the set, so it's been mostly gems already. Damn it. I was really hoping for... I did need another copy of this. Great. So finally we can do the Spirit Sisters core deck. I now have 3, so this is coming soon. I've been dying to get my hands on a copy of that, but the real... card that I want right now, and I had to craft one yesterday, is the Blade of the Oni. I've only got one, and it's mythic. It's driving me nuts. I want a full play set because I have a mono black aggro deck that I want to build. But on to the next match. Oh, sorry, on to the next brew. The next one we're going to be playing in unranked because it's the one that's still the most experimental. The whole point of these Brewing With episodes is not for me to play a specific deck over and over again. We just had the Mardu one go off fantastically. We didn't really get to show you the Kaya interaction. I'll probably jump into another game with that before the video's over, but I do want to get your juices flowing. I want you to see this card, the Sokenzan Smelter, and be like, huh, that's a sweet card. I've now had a new idea planted in my head, and I'm going to go and brew away on my client, and that's the whole point of the channel. So I hope to stimulate you in that sense. We've got the Izzet version. This one is also very aggressive and can be crazy explosive. We've got 2 copies of the Black Staff of Waterdeep, which can make a non-token artifact you control become a 4/4 artifact creature for as long as the Black Staff of Waterdeep remains tapped. It's unfortunate that it's legendary, so I've only gone with 2 copies. It would be amazing if you could have multiples of these on board. Of course, we could with a Mire box, but that's not what this deck's trying to do this time around. The really good target for this ability, the Animate Walking Statue, is the Enthusiastic Mechanaut, which is a 2/2, but if you target it with the Black Staff of Waterdeep, now it's a 4/4 with flying. So I really like to just make it. That's kind of the only reason for the Black Staff of Waterdeep to be in the deck. It's to make your Mechanaut into a 4/4. Then we've got a full playset of Voltage Surge as our removal of choice. 1 mana potentially can do 4 damage if you sacrifice a artifact when you cast the spell. Otherwise, it's just 1 mana, 2 damage, which is also quite nice. And it's cool that it can go creature or planeswalker. So we've kind of handled both potential threats. It's the only removal we have in the deck, so use it sparingly when you need it. Then we've got full playset of the Iron Apprentice as one of our main sack fodders in this deck that doesn't have, access to black. We don't have Deadly Dispute and Shambling Ghast and all of that stuff, so we need other artifacts to sacrifice to the Sokenzan Smelter. Sacrificial fodder number 1, Iron Apprentice. When it dies, it also puts its counters on things. You can decide when it happens, because the way the triggers layer, you can either put those +1/+1 counters on the smelter or on the construct. So you can kind of gauge the battlefield. If you want to have a little bit bigger Sokenzan Smelter, maybe you're facing an opponent that has, green or red decks that have like fight effects and burn spells as removal. The bigger your booty, the better. So maybe you want to put those counters on a smelter. Or if there's no blockers and you just want to get in for as much damage as possible, just put those counters on your Hasty Boy, make him a 4/2 and swing in straight away. Because you're beginning of combat, you sacrifice for 1 colorless mana the Iron Apprentice to the Sokenzan Smelter, and then the whole thing kicks off. It's fantastic. Then we've got a counter spell, which fits the archetype perfectly because it's, again, got to do with artifacts. If we have an untapped artifact, we can pay we can pay 2 blue to counter target spell. And if we don't have an untapped artifact, it's just a 3 mana counter spell. So it's just perfect for the deck. Those are our 2 main interactions, Voltage Surge and Disruption Protocol. So again, use your counters sparingly when you need them for those threats that are coming. Read the game. Try and guess at what the opponent's coming at you with. You can tell if it's a foretold Doomscar coming your way. That kind of thing. Then, don't need to reintroduce the smelter. The sweet thing about the Enthusiastic Mechanaut, not only does it make it a little bit of a Goblin Artificer tribal, which I love, but it also reduces the casting cost of our artifacts by 1 colorless. And we've got quite a few colorless artifacts here. We've got Circuit Mender, High Speed Hoverbike, which I'll get to, the main card in the deck, the Patchwork Automaton, and Brecken and Bankbuster, as well as the Iron Apprentice. If we have even just a couple copies of Enthusiastic Mechanaut in play, these cards all just become free to play. You can, even if you just have 1 Enthusiastic Mechanaut, which is a great line, by the way, turn 2 Enthusiastic Mechanaut and a free Iron Apprentice, because the casting cost will just go to 0. And, then the next turn you play a land, you can now cast like another 2 more artifacts. These will go to 1 each, and this will cost 2. And then if you've got multiple Enthusiastic Mechanauts, these becomes 0 as well, and this becomes 1 to cast. It's great, which is the main reason for having the Mechanaut in play. But don't underestimate that 4/4 in the air that you can obtain on turn 3. You play your Blackstaff on turn 1, turn 2 you play your Mechanaut, turn 3 you use the mana. You play your Mechanaut and an Iron Apprentice. On turn 3. You use the mana to animate the Enthusiastic Mechanaut, becomes a 4/4, and you're off to the races. You might have 1 red mana left open. You can Voltage Surge something, sacrifice the Iron Apprentice to the Voltage Surge, put the counters onto the Enthusiastic Mechanaut. Now it's a 5/5 in the air on turn 3. Not bad. But that's not the only aggro plan, okay? We've got the usual Smelter thing, which we've already seen in the first deck. We've got the Mechanaut flying in the air, and we've also got the Patchwork Automaton. 2 mana, 1/1 with Ward 2. So it's really tough to kind of get rid of it on turn 2 when you play it. The opponent doesn't have many spells to deal with it straight away. And then turn 3, it's like almost already too late. You just start deploying other threats, and it grows so quickly. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on Patchwork Automaton. And so, most of our spells are artifacts. Artifact. I wish this was an artifact, but it's not. Artifact. So everything's triggering the Patchwork Automaton when it enters the battlefield. And one sweet new addition is this little uncommon, which went below my radar, the High Speed Hoverbike, which has Flash. You keep it open. Oftentimes you can cast it for free because you've got the Enthusiastic Mechanauts in play. you've got an untapped Patchwork Automaton. The opponent's deciding whether to attack or not. They see your automaton is smaller than their threat, so they decide to attack. You flash in the Patchwork Automaton, you tap down their Summoning Sickness threat that they've just deployed, that they can't attack with. The threat that they attack in with, you now block with a bigger Patchwork Automaton, because flashing in the high-speed hoverbike grew it. You block that, his creature dies. Now you untap with a bigger Patchwork Automaton. You can crew your high-speed hoverbike with almost anything. It's got crew 1, so maybe one of these little constructs or what have you. Even this guy can crew it. Can crew the high-speed hoverbike, and you can just keep on applying the pressure. I love this flash vehicle. It's like such a sweet little card. Crew 1, making it also really easy to get in for flying damage if necessary. Then we've got 3 copies of the Reckoner Bankbuster, just to get a little bit of card draw in, as well as eventually having a nice threat. We can crew it quite quickly as well with the constructs. Sometimes it's better to swing in with a 4/4 than a 3/1 with haste. So you make the 3/1 to crew the 4/4, and you attack with the 4/4. Quite nice. Then we've got another sack fodder for the Sokenzan Smelter in the form of the Circuit Mender. Another sweet uncommon from the new set, which was also in my original Rakdos build. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life. When it leaves the battlefield, you draw a card. So just fantastic. And so 3 toughness. Sometimes you don't sacrifice it to the Sokenzan Smelter. You just have a nice blocker, and when you do block with it and it does potentially die, you can draw a card. Or you sacrifice it to the Smelter, you draw a card, and you make a 3/1. So all around fantastico. And that brings us to the top end, where I've gone with 2 copies of Tezzeret, just as like a alternate, maybe we'll get there, who knows. But it's nice because it has card draw. We don't really have activated abilities of artifacts other than the 2 mana that we would pay for the Reckoner Bankbuster. But usually by the time we cast Tezzeret, these things have already been, all the charge counters are removed. And there's no other activated ability. Okay, I guess the Black Staff of Waterdeep would cost 1 blue if Tezzeret's in play, but that's not what I care about. I care about the card draw. You get to draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards unless you discard an artifact card. Again, that land coming back from the previous deck. Now there's 4 of in this one. You could discard this as the artifact, which is quite nice. If you draw too many lands, you don't need it. You can just discard that and keep the other 2 threats. And then the -2, fantastic. Target artifact becomes an artifact creature with, and if it isn't a vehicle, it has base and power and toughness 4/4. So it's doing the same thing as the Black Staff of Waterdeep. We can again target one of our Mechanauts, makes it a 4/4. We can target our Patchwork Automaton, whatever it was, because its base power and toughness is 1/1. Now its base power and toughness is becoming 4/4, so it buffs it by 3 plus whatever counters you put on it up until that point. Just fantastic. I like it that you can also permanently crew Bankbuster, for example. You just make it into a 4/4. It is already a 4/4, but it just doesn't need crewing. It stays there as a creature. So yeah, let's see. This is kind of the question mark in this one. I don't know if I should run this or just cut it and put in, more, maybe go to 4 of these and just leave it at that. The mana base, super harmonious, lovely, 2 colors. We've got 1 of each, 2 of each, 4 of each, and 4 of each. No Field of Ruins. Let's jump into some games. The Enthusiastic Smelter. Goodness, almost choked. Pardon me. In this one, mulliganing is important. There's certain cards that you kind of really want to be in your opening hand. Namely, the Mechanaut. Sorry, the Automaton. There we go. This is a perfect hand. Off to the races. Land would be nice. Okay, also artifacts. Okay, so let's go with the Bank Buster then. This card is super busted. Super duper busted. Okay. See how these now cost 1 each. Very disappointed we didn't get a land. He won't block because he has nothing to put those counters on. I'm gonna laugh if it's the same. If he busts out a smelter now, it'll be just typical. Okay, okay. Now when it leaves the battlefield, it'll make. This loop is also busted. Still no lands, huh? Yeah. Stuff it. Maximum damage. Boom, 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 boom. Land, please. I need to crew my hover bikes. Oh. Oh, nice, man. I like that. Because that's effectively leaving the battlefield. Guys, we need land. What is going on here? Land, please. Yes! Okay, let's go with some removal action. What? These are artifacts? What? How did I miss that? These are artifacts. Nice, man. Sweet, like sweet jank that you come across in unranked is just amazing sometimes. I don't know why I swung there. I just kind of wanted to illustrate the point that these hover bikes can help getting through when there's blockers on the ground. He didn't keep the mana. Okay, I don't know what just happened there. Wasn't he targeting my automaton? Well played, opponent. Very synergistic. Very, very nice deck. really like that. I'm gonna have to steal some ideas. So we need to play another game with this one, because that was a terrible loss. On to the next one. Rolling with the punches. Unconventional. There's that line I was telling you guys about. Oopity, bappity. Wizard class. Dimir things happening. Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. Skadoosh. Keeping up the mana. We need more blue for counter magic. Second hero's downfall in a row. Haha. Damage or... Yeah, I think we go for the damage, hey? Badoosh. 1 mana 5/5. Just casually chilling. Blue source would be freaking nice right now. I guess we just do the exact same play and hold up the exact same spell. Badoosh. Gelatinous cube. Yeah. Yeah. Why, you little... Let's play the Mender. Now the question is, if I get rid of this before he dissolves it, nah, it's already on the stack. Don't really care over much anyway. Draw a card here. Blue mana. Yes. Gotta block that. Something I didn't mention in the deck tech. Not a very good deck. I don't know what the opponent was trying here, but we got to showcase a few things there. Definitely getting you an idea of how the deck is supposed to function. This one's nice, but as you can see, still the one that I think needs a bit of work. Mostly in how to play it, more than how it's built. I think it's built well. I just need to like pilot it a lot and learn, you know, when to play what out, etc. And that brings us to the final deck for tonight, which is the good old-fashioned Rakdos version, which is an version 2, or at this point probably a version 3 of my initial Rakdos one from the channel. Again, I'll leave links to that in the video description down below. Actually, I'll probably pin it as a comment. But the initial version didn't have the Sokenzan Smelter. This one does. And also another spicy new addition, the Mukotai Soul Ripper, which is why the deck is called the Soul Smelter. This one is probably my favorite to play. So I would say in terms of strength, Mardu one, ranked ladder ready, like 100% kick-ass. It's the one that will be available on EtherHub. The other two I'll just leave in the video description. This is the second strongest, and then the Izzet one I would rank third. This one can be insanely strong though. Really fast finishes with the Mukotai Soul Ripper and the Sokenzan Smelter together. I'll explain. I don't think I need to go over these cards. We've already talked about them a lot. Sacrifice fodder, removal. Okay, fine. More removal, card draw. Okay, fine. Mukotai Soul Ripper. 2 mana 4/3 with crew 2. Artifact vehicle. Whenever it attacks, you may sacrifice another artifact or creature. If you do, you put a +1/+1 counter on Mukotai Soul Ripper and it gains menace until end of turn. Do you see where we're going here already? Okay, it's another sack outlet for artifacts that will trigger your Oni-Cult Anvils. You blah 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 blah. You can use the constructs to crew the Soul Ripper and then sacrifice the constructs that you crewed with to grow the Soul Ripper and give it menace. You can attack with the construct and the Soul Ripper and sacrifice a blood token, a treasure token, and still get the menace and leave your Oni-Cult Anvil untapped and have a tap and sack construct to block on the opponent's turn. Just so much going on with this little combo here. I really hope to illustrate it in the gameplay footage, but it's just so efficient, low to the ground. We've only got 1 and 2 drops, a very like tidy 20 mana base, and we can just do so much with this deck. I really hope to show you. The Blood Tithe Harvester, again, fantastic. You can like play your Soul Ripper on turn 2. Turn 3, you play the Harvester. You can crew the Soul Ripper with the Harvester. This Harvester made a blood token when it entered the battlefield. So when you attack, you can sacrifice the blood token to make the Mukotai Soul Ripper at that point on turn 3, swinging in for 5 with menace. Okay, the following turn, you can swing in for 6 with menace, 8, 9, 10, if you include the haste, and then it spirals out of control really quickly. And then we've got the usual plan. If it doesn't work with the aggro plan, boom, we switch to go wide, and then sweep our own board with the Massacre and drain the opponent with the Anvil. Mana base, super harmonious, just the way I like it. 1 1 2 2 2 2 4 4 2. Just mwah, beautiful little mana base. And that's the brew. The last one for tonight. The Soul Smelter. After this episode of Brewing With, we're going to get a little bit more serious again. Try to figure out what the deck, the best decks to play are in Mythic rank. I'm going to destroy my rank for you guys. Okay. Soul Ripper turn 2. And then we can play 2 threats to crew it with. Or 1 threat. No. We need, if we want to crew it now, we have to play both threats. Okay, or resolve vampires, by the looks of it. I do want to crew it now. Watch this. It's hold up this 2 mana, 2 damage, but I don't think I'll use it. Okay, that sucks. Yay! What a card! What a card! Badoosh. Okay. These things can't block, so it's just a race. Down to 3. You saw the cycle there. We made a construct out of the blood token, and that triggered the anvil. Double strike. That's scary. And clever. 10. Good game. I think we just lost. Unbelievable. Dr. Salt. Well played. Nice jank, man. That was sick. And a really clever way of making lots of blood tokens. I do like this forebear. But alright, we don't need to jump into another match with this one. I just wanted to show, I don't need the wins with these episodes of Brewing Of. Like I said many times already this episode, I'm just trying to stimulate your juices, your creative juices to flow with some brew ideas. So, we've arrived at the 45-minute mark. We had some fun matches with all 3 decks. I've explained them extensively. I don't think we need to hear me talking any much more this episode. And I hope that I've done what I've set out to do. Get brewing. around this card. It's fun. There's a I probably still haven't even figured everything out that we could do with it. Now I'm off to play on the ladder with the Mardu version. I will see you all in the next episode. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is Lone Fox from the BrewLab, signing out. Peace, y'all.